defenseman. Monahan parked in front. Docks to Caulfield. Fires. Scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Habs After Dark. My name is Devin. Oh, stand by. We got something going on here I got to get rid of. All right. A little technical difficulty. Had a little bit of Coach Frenchie in the background. But I think we are good to go now. Let's just shut that whole thing down, and that'll help us out. How are we doing here, guys? Seems like it's a little bit choppy. Are you guys experiencing any issues there? Is it a little bit choppy for you guys? It seems choppy on my end. Anyways, let's do it. Montreal Canadiens, 2-1, huge victory. Colorado Avalanche finishing a major road trip. Victories in Florida, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, and Colorado. 4 of the best teams in the league. And, they did it in pretty good fashion. Yeah, there's something going on here, and I got to figure it out, guys. Let's quit that. Why is it so choppy? What's going on here? Why is it choppy here? Let me figure things out here, guys. I apologize. You can hear me while it's just the video that's choppy? Maybe it has to do with... Let's try this again. Is that better? There we go. Hey, there we go. How's that? Here we go. Let's do it. All right, guys. Welcome to Habs After Dark. My name is Devin. This is Recliner Sports, and we're here to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and hockey in general, but mostly the Montreal Canadiens. It's Saturday night in Canada. We're going to talk about hockey. What else do you talk about in Canada? Welcome, RDP, Claude, Joel, Frank, Laura. It's your wife's account. Okay, well, why don't you tell me what your name is then, and I will stop calling you Laura, I promise. Olivier, Larac, comment ça va? Charles-Olivier, comment ça va? Bonsoir tout le monde. Welcome to Habs After Dark. My name is Devin. Montreal Canadiens, 2-1 winners over the Colorado Avalanche. This is the road trip that usually kills the Montreal Canadiens, but instead this year it appears to be the road trip that is going to perhaps turn things in the right direction. It's a turning point for the Canadiens. It's a point in the rebuild where they move to another stage. They start improving. Again, the rebuild still will be a long and drawn-out process, and this is not the end of the rebuild. This is not the, hey, Lanny, what's going on? This is not by any means, the finishing point, or even, I don't know that it's the turning point. Maybe I used the wrong word earlier. Il y a beaucoup de temps qui doit passer avant que le rebuild soit fini. Il y a beaucoup de changements qui vont arriver. Il y a des nouveaux joueurs qui vont arriver. But it looks really good right now, guys. Like I said, a win in Florida, a win in Tampa Bay, a win in Colorado, and a win in Las Vegas. Sprinkle in an unfortunate loss in Blackhawkland in Chicago. Hey, Intertep, what's going on? But yeah, it's great. The Canadiens are on a roll. They're playing well. They're moving up. They can sniff a playoff spot right now, and they're playing good hockey. They're playing good hockey against good teams. They're playing good hockey against bad teams, and they're starting to develop those winning habits that we've been hearing the coaching staff talk about for the last little while. So if you're over there on TikTok, guys, come on over to YouTube, join the show. The channel is Recliner Sports 4, and the show is Habs After Dark. Just come on over and join the conversation. So let's talk about the game, guys. What do we think? I got a couple takeaways that I wrote down, and the first one I wrote down is you have to play the game that's in front of you. We talked earlier about the Canadiens sort of people were sort of downplaying certain games that the Canadiens were playing. When they beat Buffalo, it was like, okay, well, it's just Buffalo. It's not a big deal. They when they're beating the lower teams, it's like, oh, it's only Buffalo. Well, you have to play the game that's presented to you. But that works on the positive side and it works on the negative side, right? So tonight, they had to play the game that was presented to them. They were presented with the Colorado Avalanche, probably, as dominating an offensive team as there is in the entire league. And, this is a game that, obviously could have been really difficult for a young team like Montreal. And certainly, a month ago, it would have been very difficult for them. But they played the game that was put in front of them, right? They played, they shut down, the best player in the NHL, in my opinion. They shut down Nathan MacKinnon. 0 points. I think he had 0 points. No, he got an assist, I think, on the... Did he get an assist on the goal? Yeah, he got an assist on the power play goal. But, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they shut down, the best pair of forwards in the entire NHL. Rantanen and MacKinnon. Some will obviously argue Draisaitl and McDavid, but, that was a great game by the Canadiens. They're missing David Savard, but they managed to do it without him. I just thought it was, a spectacular, a spectacular effort by these guys. Back-to-back games with travel. This is not something we would have seen. We would not have seen the type of maturity from this team that we saw from them tonight, and it was really, really special to watch. So let's get in the comments real quick. We'll go over the game as well, but let's get in the comments real quick. RDP, welcome. Claude Richard, go Habs go. Yes, Claude Richard starts all of our lives with a go Habs go. Then he doesn't really stick around, but if you want to stick around and have a chat, Claude, we'd love to have you. Jules, t'es bien. Yes, sir, tabarnak. Yes, great game. C'est un excellent match pour le Canadien, Joel. Il joue de très, très bien hockey maintenant. Frank Lorca, the new Ken Dryden, is awesome. Should be number one goalie now. Frank is our in-house roller coaster, right? Frank was ready to fire the coach. Frank was ready to trade half the team. Frank was ready to fire the GM. A month and a half ago, and now Frank has Jacob Dobesh as the new Ken Dryden. Should be the number one goalie. After 2 games. Again, I tend to take a bit of a more even-keeled approach to this team, Frank, but I love it. I love the enthusiasm. I love all of that, and it's the way the Montreal Canadiens fans are, and that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, like I said, I try and take a little bit of a more objective approach to things, but it is what it is. But again, yeah, I'm Jacob Dobesh has been really exciting to watch, and it's always nice to see a young player do well. Lanny/Laura says, great road trip. This is my wife's account. Yes. Olivier, ça va très bien, merci. Et toi? Merci pour être ici. It's nice to see you, Olivier. Thank you very much. If you're here in the live, guys, make sure that you subscribe. The subscribe button is just here below me. All you have to do is just hit that button to join our family, our channel here. It would be awesome if you could do that. That would be great. Send us a thumbs up if you like. I see we've got 4 already. We can always use a little bit more. What else do we have here? Thank you, Kent, for bringing up Dobesh. What a goalie. I agree. I mean, again, I had my doubts about it. I don't typically believe it's a good move to be calling up a rookie goaltender midway through the season, especially one who you believe is going to be, play a role on your team in the future. I think there's a significant risk of stunting that goalie's growth. One, you're putting him in potentially a difficult situation that might, negatively impact his confidence. But you're also, bringing him into a situation where he's not going to get as much ice time as he would if he were staying in Laval. However, I can't argue with the results. The results look really, really good so far. 2 for 2 for Dobesh. He's looked very special in both games. Maybe we'll see him a little bit later on in the show with our A team. You'll have to stick around and see if he makes it onto tonight's A team. We will get to that in a minute here in a little while. So, but yeah, again, what you can't possibly say anything naked or negative about Jacob Dobesh. Entertap, welcome, my my favorite co-host from over on Habs Nation Live with Coach Frenchie. Welcome, Entertap. It's great to see you. Thank you for your continued support and for coming by. Entertap says, "Hi, Devin. Go Habs. Go. Great game for Habs, especially when final game of a long road trip." Absolutely, right? So again, I get back to, play the game in front of you. It's been a long road trip, back-to-back games with travel. You're playing against probably the best offensive team or one of the best offensive teams in the entire NHL, and you come out and you've got to play the game that they bring to you, right? You can't just go out and run and gun against Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen and Jonathan Drouin and all of those guys. They will beat the shit out of you if you do that. So you have to play the game that you need to play in order to compete with those guys and to compete with that team. And they did that tonight, right? They shut down the Colorado Avalanche offense, certainly 5-on-5. Again, I probably will go on a little bit of a rant later about the refereeing. I thought the refereeing was absolutely disastrous, disgraceful, horrendous, embarrassing. It's just gross the way the NHL is refereeing hockey games these days. But in any event, other than that one power play goal, the Canadiens really shut down the Avalanche tonight. So that was what was presented to them. That was what was put in front of them. This is the challenge that we're putting to you, and this is what challenge you need to meet. And those are the challenges that you're going to have to meet if you're going to be a contending hockey team. If this team is going to mature into a team that can contend for a Stanley Cup, these are the kind of games that they're going to have to play. It's not going to be, you have to know who you're playing against and how to beat them. And you have to be able to beat teams in different ways. Different teams take different, there's different ways you beat different teams. And tonight, they played the perfect game to beat this particular team. It was a perfect road game, right? Even if they don't manage to win in that shootout, at least they get a point out of it, right? They managed to get that 1 point. It's a perfect road game. So, Olivier, maybe they lost yesterday, but what a big game tonight. Yeah, again, they lost yesterday, but I thought they played well, right? They put up 40 shots for the first time this year against a team that, probably is not as strong as they are, certainly is not as strong as they are. The effort, I shouldn't say that. The effort was fine. The result obviously wasn't there. But again, sometimes that happens, right? Again, I can't remember. I think it was Matt Drake that was saying on his podcast, he was talking about the fact that these are the games that the Canadiens used to pull off last year every once in a while, right? Games where a better team would come to town and, absolutely, lambaste the Canadiens and, put up 40, 45 shots. And Samuel Montembeault would stand on his head and the Canadiens would win 2-1 or 3-2 or whatever. So, it's nice for the Canadiens to be on the other side of that for a change, I suppose. Hudson is making a real case for Rookie of the Year. I agree. His offensive numbers are spectacular. His defensive numbers are actually really quite good as well, despite what some of the haters will say. Interesting thing that I caught on the Basu and Godin Notebook podcast today. Actually, I think the podcast came out yesterday, but I listened to it today. Lane Hudson is a negative. He's a -9. His plus minus is -9. But 8 of those minuses come with empty net goals against, right? So he's a -8 in situations where the net is empty, right? So either the other team has scored, I think it's 7 times the other team has scored on an empty net while Lane Hudson has been on the ice. And then on one other occasion, the other team pulled their goalie and Lane Hudson was on the ice and they scored a goal. So 8 of Lane Hudson's -9 occurred when either his net was empty or the other team's net was empty. So again, his defensive numbers are quite good, especially when you compare them to, the other players on the team and the fact that the team has a -16 goal differential. Lane Hudson is playing perfectly fine defense, and anybody who thinks that, still thinks that he can't play defense in the NHL because he's too small is just absolutely out to lunch. Sorely mistaken. Entertap, 100% difference in D-men tonight versus Chicago. Effective coverage and relatively error-free. I agree. They did a lot much better. They did a lot better in the in their own zone. I still don't think that the neutral zone game was as good as it was in the Las Vegas game, but certainly, they did everything. I mean, they shut down again. It's like it was fantastic. I'm going to talk about the goals here in a minute, but the Canadians goal in regulation was a great example of how this team is playing their system and how they're doing. They're covering for each other. They know where they need to be. They're making good reads. They're doing all that stuff. But we'll get to that when we talk about the goal. So, Charles Olivier, the game wasn't perfect, but I feel like the Habs had the edge in many aspects of the game tonight. Well, I don't know that you're going to see very many perfect games, Charles Olivier, but ce match-là, pour moi, c'était bien proche de parfait. Ils ont bien joué. C'était une très bonne équipe à l'autre côté. C'est une des meilleures équipes de la Ligue. Ils jouent d'excellent hockey maintenant. Et les Canadiens l'ont complètement, comment on dit, stifle, smother. Ils ont enlevé complètement l'air des Avalanches de Colorado ce soir. Alors pour moi, si on considère la situation, l'équipe qui jouait, le fait qu'il était le deuxième match en 2 soirées avec un voyage avec, je crois, pour moi, c'était un excellent match. Certainement, c'est pas parfait, mais c'était un très, très bon match.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Oh. Somebody thinks I'm talking to her. Anyways, yeah. I got a thumbs down there, but then it changed to a thumbs up, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We got 9 thumbs up, guys. Keep them coming. Please keep them coming. Claude Richard, what a comeback. Doc is back. What do you think about Dobesh? Yeah, Doc looks very good. I mean, whether he's back or not full-time, I don't know. I certainly think he still has room to improve. So I guess I would agree with you that he's back, but I think he still has. I think he still has more in the tank, and I think we're going to see him. I think we're going to see him be a lot better than even what we've seen from him so far. I thought he had a great game tonight. Dobesh is awesome. We just talked about him a second ago, right? I had my concerns about him coming up, being brought up as a young goalie midway through the season, and what that might do and what that might lead to. But again, you can't argue with the results, right? Yes, Gary, great game, great week. Everything was great. Great road trip. This is a road trip that typically kills the Canadiens, right? This is a road trip they usually struggle with. The post-Christmas road trip is not one that has been good to the Montreal Canadiens the last number of years. So you'd give Dobesh the start on Monday. Again, I don't think they want to deviate from their plan, right? They brought Dobesh up with a plan. I think the plan is working. I think they'll stick to it. Again, it's kind of like I don't know if you guys are gamblers, but if you go to the casino and you sit down at the blackjack table and you're playing $5 hands at the blackjack table and you win 3 or 4 hands in a row, and then you think to yourself, I'm doing awesome here, and then you start playing $20 hands and you lose 1 hand, and guess what? All of that work that you put in to make your money to get on the $5 hands, you lost on one $20 hand. So to me, I don't think that there's any need to sort of get ahead of yourself here. Again, I know Canadiens fans were prone to, overreacting and making judgments and making decisions based on short sample sizes. But again, I don't believe Lanny. For me, I don't think that I would. Again, I wouldn't mess with what is right now a pretty good thing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Charles Olivier, I don't think it would be good for Sam's confidence because he's playing as well. I agree, Charles. I think Sam Montembeault is playing well. Jakub Dobesh is playing well. I don't see why you would. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Did Dobesh get any stars for tonight's game? They did not show the 3 stars. I don't know. I didn't watch it, Frank. I didn't see it as well. I typically watch the game in English on Saturday night because I can't stand the coverage on TVA. And usually Sportsnet leaves the game as soon as the Canadiens game is over, and they don't stick around for the 3 stars. But if you do stick around, Frank, you might hear me talk about the A team for tonight, and maybe we can see if he might be on that. Dobesh was amazing tonight. I agree, Elio. Morantz, welcome. Morantz and Elio, you're new here. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Welcome to Habs After Dark. Welcome to Recliner Sports. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. We would love to have you here on a regular basis. if Dobesh continues with his strong goaltending, he deserves to stay. Primo had his opportunity and he blew it. I couldn't care less how he does in Laval, keeping there. Dobesh was first star. That's first star in both games. I mean, again, I don't know why you have such a negative thought process about a 26-year-old kid who's trying to be a professional hockey player. I don't know why you would be so harsh about all of that. I agree with you. If Dobesh continues to play like this, he'll stay. I don't think that makes Primo a bad person or a bad goaltender. I don't know that it means that you should stop caring about what happens in Laval. Primo played very well in Laval last night. I believe he stopped 27 of 28 shots, and Laval has now won 2 games in a row. So Laval is an important part of this organization. A number of the players who will be part of this team when it becomes a successful team and a contender are currently playing in Laval, and so the success in Laval is pretty important. So, again, I don't get the anger and the animosity that you have towards Caden Primo Morantz, but you don't have to hate Caden Primo in order to love Jakub Dobesh. So they're still both goalies in our organization, and I think if you're a real Canadiens fan, you'll be on both of their side, and you'll hope that they both do well if you're a real fan. Yes, Elio, I agree. Dobesh was great. Primo, has he played AHL games? Yes, he played last night. RDP. They won 3-1, I believe. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, against the Abbotsford Canucks, and he stopped 27 of 28. I believe they won 4-1 tonight. Somebody can also correct that. I didn't catch the final score. And Connor Hughes was in nets for them tonight. I care, Morantz. I care a lot because, like I said, Laval is part of our organization. Primo is a 26-year-old kid who, I'm not an asshole, so I don't wish him. I wouldn't wish him badly. So I hope he does well. I hope that Laval does well because guys like Owen Beck and Luke Tuck and Florian Jacki and Adam Engstrom and Logan Mailloux are all playing on that team. And if that team does well, and that team, makes the playoffs and that team, goes on a long playoff run, then that'll be good experience for those guys that will make them better players when they become Montreal Canadiens. So I care. I know. And if you're a real Canadiens fan, you'd probably care too. So that's just my take on it. I mean, again, I don't quite understand why you'd be angry. I get that you'd be disappointed that Caden Primo didn't really perform up to par, while he was with the Canadiens. I don't get why you would dislike the guy or, and I just don't understand that. I don't understand that kind of hockey fan, why you dislike people or dislike players because of the way they perform on the ice. I can guarantee you that there's nobody more disappointed in the way they're playing than Caden Primo. He certainly, is more disappointed than you are about the whole situation. Again, Morantz, you can keep saying the same thing over and over again. I'm just probably going to start ignoring you now. But again, it's quite evident that you have no idea what you're talking about and that you're not much of a hockey fan. So anyways, we'll move on. If you have anything, intelligent to say, you can feel free to throw it my way and I'll happily respond. So, he did play well yesterday, Chris. He's played well in the past. He had a lot of success in Laval the first time around. He played quite well for the Montreal Canadiens last year. Unfortunately, he struggled mightily through the first 35 games of this season. I think he had 7 starts. He played in 11 games, and he didn't play well, certainly through the first bit of this year. But, he's a good goaltender. He played well. Bonjour, François. Oui, c'est un podcast bilingue. J'essaie de répondre en français si c'est nécessaire, s'il y a des individus, des personnes ici qui veulent parler en français, qui veulent me demander des questions en français, je vais faire mon mieux de répondre en français. Alors, si vous avez des questions en français, be my guest. Lanny, what are my thoughts about the penalty that caused a goal for the Avs? Penalty that caused a goal for the Avs. So which was remind me the penalty tell me about the penalty again, Laura. I'm drawing a blank right now. Sorry, Lanny, I mean. Remind me. It was nice to see Kirby score again. Cole pushing. Yeah. Kirby with the nice move on the shootout goal looked really, really nice. Caulfield again demonstrating that he is an elite goal scorer in the NHL. Was Slav hurt or benched in the third period? I'm not sure. I don't know that it was either. I know that in the overtime they put Doc out there in his place. I'm not sure. He didn't have a great game tonight. I agree with that. I don't know. I would say he played terribly. He did struggle a little bit tonight. Billy in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, welcome. I'm also in that region as well, Billy. So welcome to Habs After Dark. Dobesh, outstanding goaltending, puts pressure on Montembeault to play well. Otherwise, he will eventually lose his number one spot. Again, yeah, I agree. It's healthy competition. But again, I don't see any reason to suggest that Montembeault is at risk of losing his number one spot. It's great to have two goaltenders playing at the top of their game. I love it. Pizzetta is not an NHL player. He's a total non-factor. You have it or you don't. Well, to be fair to Michael Pizzetta, again, I don't understand why you have this animosity towards hockey players, why you insist on talking so negatively and feeling so badly about them. But Michael Pizzetta played his first game yesterday since October 27th. If you expected him to step on the ice and be, an impact player, I'm not sure that you know a whole lot about the game of hockey or sports in general. Michael Pizzetta is a decent hockey player. I think he could play hockey on an NHL team. He certainly would be a lot better if he was playing regularly. But unfortunately, that role doesn't exist for him on the Montreal Canadiens right now. Dvorak isn't playing that bad right now, to be fair, but I don't see him being part of the field. I agree, Charles. Dvorak is playing well. Gallagher's playing well. Josh Anderson's playing well. But frankly, when their contracts expire, I don't see them, being part of the team long term unless, certainly Dvorak. I mean, maybe you could see Gallagher sticking around with the team if he took a significant pay cut and wanted to be sort of a 13th forward kind of guy and, play a bit of a leadership role. But, yeah, we'll see. A-team, Dobesh, Caulfield, Gooley, and Hudson. Okay, well, let's get there, Entertaps. We're almost through the comments here. There's a lot of comments tonight, so I'm trying my best. Slav's not playing well. I don't think he played well tonight. I think he played well. I thought he played okay yesterday. I thought he played well, previously on this road trip. The new hook penalty. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't love the penalty calls tonight. I'll get into the refereeing later if we have time. I just thought the refereeing was disgraceful tonight. It was very terribly inconsistent. That penalty call at the end of the game, was just an absolute invisible call. It just wasn't there. And Nathan McKinnon with a minute and 40 some left in the game, gets a pure reputation call because it's Nathan McKinnon. So, give us a thumbs up, guys. Gary says if you love the Habs, give a thumbs up. The more thumbs up we get, the better. If you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button right down here. I believe it's just here below the screen. If you're not quite subscribed yet, that would be awesome. We're trying to grow our channel here. We've got about 200 subscribers right now. We want to desperately get to 500. We've been doing this for a little over 2 months now. We'd really like to try and get to more than that. So, the tap on the stick. Yeah. Unfortunately in the NHL right now, if you hit somebody in the stick and they drop their stick, or if their stick breaks, unfortunately that's going to be a penalty. I think it's kind of a bit weak, to be honest with you. The sticks nowadays are made out of, appear to be made out of cardboard and break very easily. Back in my day, you were taught to do that, right? What is the first thing they taught you when you started playing hockey when you were a kid? The first words that they taught you: 2 hands on your stick, 2 hands on your stick, right? The reason you kept 2 hands on your stick was because if you didn't, the defender was going to knock it out of your hands. And, your coach would go around in practice when you were, 6, 7, 8 years old, and he'd knock the stick out of your hands, and he taught you to keep your 2 hands on your stick. So, in any event, well, welcome, Billy. I'm happy to have you. Well, the more the merrier. Trying to get as many people in here as we can. The month of January will really show us how the Habs can stick around. Tough schedule. Yeah, absolutely. This whole road trip was going to be a tough test, right, Charles? Pour les matchs contre la Floride, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, Colorado, c'était 4 matchs qu'on voyait comme un un vrai examen, un vrai test pour le Canadien. Ils ont très bien joué. Thank you for the thumbs down, whoever that was. Much appreciated. Lanny, I'm not a fan of being called for slashing if I knock the stick out of the player's hand without breaking it. It was, again, I think, I'll get into the refereeing later, Lanny. I'll just pass on that for now, but we'll talk about the refereeing and the state of refereeing in the NHL. Okay, Newfoundland, nice. RDP is in Newfoundland. Laurel, Lanny, smash the like button. Yes, I hope Montreal signs Jake Evans. We can't afford losing the player. I agree, Frank. I'd love to see him on the team. Again, I think it'll come down to the dollar amount, but we'll see. Andre, yes, subscribe. Let's get those numbers up, guys. Like I said, we're right around 200. We need to get to 500. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, we get a shot at Vancouver on Monday. I agree. Again, another team that's a little bit in turmoil. Opportunity to take a good shot at them. Let's get to the scoreboard, guys. Let's do the scoreboard. I love it. So many questions, but let's get to the scoreboard here real quick and have a look at that. As I said, it was a 2-1 victory for the Canadiens. There's our scoreboard, and let's talk about it. Again, only a few goals to talk about, so it should be pretty quick. There it is right there, guys. Sorry. So 2-1 Montreal. Again, first period, a bit of a feeling out. The Canadiens are trying to shut down the Avalanche. They're obviously realizing that they're playing against a really good team. The shots are only 8-4. It's a pretty low event period. Colorado does manage to get on the board at the 9-minute mark on a goal by Mikko Rantanen. That goal is, again, it's a typical Colorado power play goal. Makar has the puck at the blue line. He waits a little bit with the puck. He waits for Nathan MacKinnon. He basically waits for the rest of his team to get in position. He feeds Nathan MacKinnon on the left flank where Nathan MacKinnon loves to attack from. As a Halifax Moosehead fan who watched him with season tickets while he was here, he did it the exact same way when he was 17 years old as he's doing it now. He gets the puck on that left flank. He attacks from the left circle. He attacks the goal. He draws the defenders to him, and when they come to him, he feeds a perfect pass across seam to Mikko Rantanen, who is on the far post, back door. And Rantanen, all he has to do is just sort of redirect the puck into the net. Again, a typical Colorado power play goal. We've seen it 100 times, 1,000 times. That's how they score goals. So it's 1-0 after 1 for the Avalanche. Again, we see the shots were low, 8-4 for Colorado. High danger chances were 3-2 for Colorado. And the expected goals were relatively close. I think it was 0.8 to 0.5. Second period, again, the Canadiens played a little bit better. I think they carried the play a little bit more. I think the first period they kind of were, defending Colorado, whereas in the second period, I think they were taking it to Colorado a little bit more. The tide kind of changed in that period. The shots were reversed. The Canadiens, not dominated, but won the shot battle 8-5. In the second period, the high danger scoring chances were 3-3. It was pretty even. And the expected goals were pretty even as well. I think 0.5 to 0.7. But the Canadiens, I thought, played a lot better. And I shouldn't say they played better. They were able to turn the tide a little bit and were able to sort of go on the offense a little bit in that second period, even though nobody was able to score. Then in the third period, sort of 13:25 mark, not late in the period, but towards the end of the game, the Canadiens finally break through. Right, it was looking sort of like last night's game where they. Excuse me, guys, where they looked like they were, getting lots of opportunities but weren't able to beat the goaltender. Blackwood was playing quite well. The Canadiens were taking the play in the third period to Colorado. They certainly had the edge as far as the offensive aspect of the game. The shots were 10-7 in the third. The high danger scoring chances were pretty even, but the Canadiens also led in the high danger scoring chances in the third. Finally, 13:25, Lane Hudson gets caught. He pinches at the blue line. He takes a chance. It doesn't work out for him. But again, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is sort of what I really was impressed with in this game. So Lane Hudson, he pinches at the blue line. He tries to make a play. You're down 1-0. He's trying to create that goal. But it doesn't work out for him. He gets caught. But Jake Evans comes back. He covers for Lane Hudson. He covers for his teammate. He reads the play. He gets back, and he creates a turnover at his own blue line, right? So he comes back and he pokes the puck away from the Colorado player. Lane Hudson, who's, busting it to get back after, getting caught pinching at the blue line, ends up with the puck in his own zone. And, we know what Lane Hudson's vision is like and how quickly he thinks the game. He turns around and he makes a pass into the neutral zone to immediately to Nick Suzuki, right? It's a great transition play, right? It's a turnover, and Lane Hudson recognizes that it's a turnover and it's a transition opportunity. He hits he hits Nick Suzuki with a pass in the neutral zone, and he sends Suzuki and Caulfield in on a 2-on-1. And again, there are two better players on the Montreal Canadiens that you would want to have on a 2-on-1. Suzuki and Caulfield. Suzuki goes in, draws the defender over, and when the defender comes to him, he feeds a perfect pass over to Caulfield, who just has to put it in backdoor. Again, a really, really nice goal. Those are the two guys you would want on a 2-on-1, and they certainly capitalized on their opportunity. And the score is 1-1. The Canadiens then, basically, continue to press, for the rest of the third period. Again, a horrendous call by the referees with about 1:45 left in the game. Nathan MacKinnon gets a call simply because he's Nathan MacKinnon and for no other reason. It's an absolute phantom penalty that they call. And for whatever reason, the referees thought that was the right time to call that call. It's just completely embarrassing, right? Like, again, I could talk about how bad the referees are in the NHL right now, but again, for them to call that at that time of the game is just complete disgrace and disaster. Anyways, the Canadiens go on the penalty kill with 1:45 in the game. The game is on the line. 1 point anyway at that stage is on the line. If they allow a goal here, they're probably not even going to walk away from this game with a point. But again, they come out and a Herculean effort on the penalty kill. They managed to kill that penalty in regulation. Again, I don't even think Colorado got a couple of decent chances on that play. Dobesh obviously stood on his head again, on that power play, and throughout the third period, I thought he was spectacular. But again, they kill that penalty. Again, there's still about 20 seconds left on the power play. Going into the overtime period, Dobesh again makes a couple nice saves. The Canadiens then get a breakaway. Caden Gooley gets a breakaway coming out of the box. Mikko Rantanen takes a shot, misses the net. It rims all the way around the boards. Caden Gooley gets the puck at the red line all by himself. He goes in on I almost said Wedgwood. Goes in on Blackwood. Again, Caden Gooley, probably not the ideal guy you'd want to have on a breakaway. And Blackwood makes the save. Both teams get chances in the overtime. Again, the Canadiens get a power play in the overtime. Lettinen runs over the goalie. Second time, the Avalanche players ran over the Canadiens goalie. Again, we could talk about that a little bit more later if you want. I think both were legitimate calls. I do think that the Canadiens players contributed in the Colorado players going into the goalie. However, I think that both of those players, Lettinen and the first one was Ross Colton, both of those guys made up their mind that they were driving hard to the net. And you can't do that. You can't do that. And I think it was it was something that they clearly intended to do. If you've been following, you'll know that there was an incident involving a Colorado goalie in their last game where their goalie got hit and was injured. And so, I think they've kind of had that in their mind tonight that they were going to sort of push that a little bit. Beyond those two penalty calls, there were a couple of incidents where they bumped the goalie, and it was something they clearly were trying to do. They were trying to get in Dobesh's kitchen, young goalie. I think they were trying to get him off his game. Anyways, no scoring in the overtime. We go to a shootout. Dobesh stops both of the Avalanche first two shooters. I think it was Drouin and somebody else. I don't think it was MacKinnon. I think it was Rantanen. It was Rantanen and Drouin. He stops both of them, and the Canadiens get goals from Cole Caulfield and Kirby Dach. Cole Caulfield scores first on a nice play, and then Kirby Dach does the same. The game's over. Canadiens win 2-1. That's all she wrote. They're on a plane. They're flying back. They'll be back in Montreal. And they play on Monday against the Vancouver Canucks. So that's all she wrote. Let's get back to the comments, guys. We'll we'll get back to your comments, and then we'll deal with the A team here in a minute. Caulfield, Lanny says Caulfield is a legitimate goal scorer. Absolutely, 100%. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt at all. Larry agrees with Entertap's A team. Caulfield would likely have a few more if he wasn't moved from his office on the power play. Yeah, I mean, again, it is what it is, right? I think they need to find a way to incorporate Caulfield into the power play, whether it's moving him to the second unit, whether it's finding him another spot on the ice where he can be effective from. Maybe he can be effective in the bumper, right? Maybe he can get that shot away in the bumper. I think that Nick Suzuki is good in the bumper as far as distributing the puck, but he hasn't really shown that he's, able to create scoring opportunities from that spot. If we watch a guy like Braden Point in Tampa Bay, you see him, create scoring chances and get a lot of goals from that spot. And maybe Cole Caulfield can get shots on goal from that spot. Andre, the Habs have to reduce the amount of shots on net. Big improvement. Yeah, I mean, again, they have to get more shots on goal. They have to allow fewer shots on goal. I don't think tonight that was an issue. I thought the Habs have reduced the amount of shots on net. Big improvement. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely. C'est exact, André. C'est un excellent commentaire. I agree with you completely. Dobesh is looking very good, Larry. I agree with that as well. Yeah, I mean, again, Montreal Canadiens fans are famous for knee-jerk reactions and overreacting to, short-term results, whether it's positive or negative. The idea that after 2 games that you're going to anoint a guy to be the number 1 goalie in Montreal is again, it's crazy, but it's typical. It's what Canadiens fans do. So. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen now. Could it happen down the road? Absolutely. But again, this is what Montreal Canadiens do, right? Like when things are going well, they're planning a Stanley Cup parade. When things are going badly, they want to fire, the entire coaching staff, the management. They want to send all the players down to the minors. They want to trade this guy. They want to get that guy out of here. But again, Dobesh had 2 good games. It's awesome. But again, why would you risk? Why would you risk breaking something that's working right now? Again, this is what it comes to. See, well, you can keep sending me, thumbs down, Morantz, but put your emotions behind the, put the well-being of the team ahead of your emotions, right? Emotionally, you want to see Dobesh become the number 1 because he looks awesome. But if you use your brain instead of your heart, it'll tell you that. This has only been 2 games, and there's a lot more to see before, you're going to make a guy, allow a guy to be your number 1 goalie, right? He's got to prove it in different ways. And, there's absolutely no reason in the world for Sam Montembeault to lose that job because Sam Montembeault has been spectacular. So again, why are you taking something that's working really, really well and trying to dick around with it and risk the possibility of breaking it? It's because you're putting your emotions ahead of the well-being of the team. And as a hockey fan, as a Canadiens fan, that should be paramount for you. It should be, what's best for this team? What's best for this, for the Montreal Canadiens? What is the best thing for them? Not what's the thing that's going to make me feel the best. I don't know, Morantz. I think it's probably something that's pretty easily found on the internet. You could probably go look it up. I believe he's 6'5", but I'm not sure. Again, I don't see any reason to deviate from what's going on with the Canadiens right now. If Sam Montembeault, I certainly think that Dobesh has brought himself to a spot where he can play more often. I think that the share of the games between Dobesh and Montembeault certainly can be more so than they were between Primo and Montembeault, even before, especially before the 10 games in a row that Montembeault played. Does Dobesh play maybe every 3rd or 4th game? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, he looked really good in the shootout on both shooters, Lanny, I would got to say. Yeah, absolutely pleased, Billy. I agree with you completely. St. Louis has been great for this young core of players. Again, I think it's one of the most underrated and forgotten aspects of the rebuild, Lanny, is the rebuild isn't just about the roster. It's not just about the players that are on the team. It's about everything outside of the team too, right? It's who you bring in personnel wise, right? The GM, right? They brought in a GM who's not a former player. They brought in a GM who's an agent. They brought in somebody who's never done the job before. They brought in somebody with new attitude, new personality, new approach to being a general manager. They brought in a coach who is new to coaching as well, and who is a teacher, right? He's a guy who develops young hockey players. He has a skill for that. He has a talent for that. He has a philosophy about making young hockey players better. They didn't bring in some old school dinosaur that's been kicked around the league for the last 25 years, right? They didn't bring in John Tortorella. They didn't bring in a hard ass that was going to be an old school kind of coach. They brought in a guy who's not only going to be a good teacher for the players, but is going to create an environment and an atmosphere that these players want to play in, and not just these players, but other players. So when they start looking at the free agent market, when they get to that point, or when they start trying to sign young players, or when they start to re-sign the players that they already have, you've got a bunch of guys who are interested in playing here. You've got guys that are interested in playing in Montreal. They're interested in being a part of what that team is building, because the management and the coaching staff are doing something to create that type of family-like environment. Everyone's on the same page. You hear the players talk about it all the time. It's like a family. They talk. When's the last time you heard hockey players after a game give an interview and talk about how they love each other, right? And that they're there for one another, and that they support one another. And you don't hear that, right? But I've heard multiple times this year Montreal Canadiens players talking about how they love each other, and how they're there for one another. And it even goes beyond that, like hiring Chantal Machabé to be their media relations person, right? Now they're being a little bit more, they're being more transparent with the media. They're making more of the they're being more open and available to the media. So again, that's a long answer to a short question, Lanny, but I think St. Louis has been great, and he brings a totally different approach to this. A goalie penalty was soft. I agree. It was a terrible call. It was a phantom call again. I mean, if it was anybody else other than Nathan McKinnon, I don't think it gets called. And certainly calling it at that stage of the hockey game was kind of embarrassing for the referees. Is mainly, I don't know what do you mean by he's sticking around for young players' development? I think St. Louis is the coach of this team for the long run, Charles Olivier. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's here as long as he wants to be here. I don't think he's going anywhere. My voice, wow. As you know, guys, I've been sick. My voice is just coming back around. So, I can't remember what I was about to say. Anyways, I'll get back to it. Yes, Dobesh, 6'5". Thank you, Entertap. I'm excited that we have two good goalies now. We can service an injury to Montembeault. Well, again, it wouldn't be ideal, Andre. But again, it wouldn't be the end of the world. We'll see. Again, I think, 2 games is a very short sample size. I think we should still, kind of chill out a little bit on that. But I agree. Certainly our goaltending situation is a lot better right now than it was before Christmas. So Goalie needs to start playing smarter. Okay. All right, Morantz. Charles, you can feel free to ask for, but again, I don't think it's worth trying to get inside of his mind right now. Sorry, that's what I was going to say, Andre. Exactly. I think that Martin is learning as well. Yes, right. We forget that he's new here too, right? He's a rookie. He's an up and comer. He's learning how to be a coach in the NHL. He's learning what it is to develop young hockey players. He's learning what it means to win in the NHL. I mean, obviously he won as a player, but as a coach, he's learning. A starting goalie should have a minimum of 60 games under his belt. Yeah, but I don't disagree with that, Larry. I think it's. I mean, we're looking at some of the looking at Swayman in Boston. Now that he finally has the starting position, he's struggling a little bit. So yeah, I agree with you. It's starting goalie in the NHL is a tough spot. Not just the skill and talent involved with it, but the mental aspect of it as well. All right, Morantz, have a good one, man. Have a good night. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. If you didn't subscribe yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you after the game on Monday. Thanks so much. To my earlier point, in November, the fan base were screaming that we need a real coach. I agree. And again, it's typical, Billy. It's the way that fans are here in the Canadiens market. There's nothing we're going to do to change it. It's never going to change. What I'm really happy about is that we have a management team that doesn't respond to that anymore. Right? We don't have a management team that sort of reacts to or bases its decisions on what the media and the fans are sort of carrying on about at that particular time. Yeah, I agree. Again, I think that New York is New York is not unlike the Montreal Canadiens were, before this new regime, right? Very reactive to short-term results. So I agree. Yeah, St. Louis again. I don't even know that that's even a question, Andre. He's absolutely staying, and anybody who was saying in November or is saying now that he's not up to the job or that he's going anywhere just doesn't really understand what they're talking about. Dobesh did his homework. Yeah, I think Dobesh. If you listen to him speak, I think he's a guy who takes his hockey very seriously. I think he's a guy who understands the game and he works hard at it both on and off the ice. Martin St. Louis is right for the Habs, and the players seem to be learning under him, and he seems to have control and respect for the team. Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, you're speaking to the choir, Larry. I mean, I don't, or preaching to the choir, I guess is the proper expression. He's ideal for this job, right? Again, so I look at Anaheim and I see that they've hired Sean Cronin, who I understand is, again, I don't know him personally and don't know much about him, but all evidence is that he's a hard ass. Right? I don't know why you bring a hard ass in to coach a group of young players, right? You're bringing in young players who you want to develop into your next generation of contenders in your organization, and you hire a hard ass who's gonna, I don't get it. Why is Philadelphia trusting John Tortorella with their rebuild? Right, we already saw what he did last year. Right, he had a decent team that was playing well above their head. They were going on a good pace, and he had to ruin it by turning into an asshole. It was the most predictable thing that anybody could have ever seen coming. Right, at some point he was going to get frustrated with some of the players, and he was going to try and do something because he can't possibly blame himself or try and fix things in a proper way. So he goes on the press conference and calls his players stupid, and then benches Sean Couturier, and the team just dies. They fall apart. So, anyways, I think Martin St. Louis is the perfect guy for the Canadiens. He's the perfect guy for a rebuild, and I think it's awesome. Yes, the Rockets won tonight. I believe it was 4-1 was the final. Leo, thank you very much, man. Thank you for coming by. Hopefully we'll see you in the future. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We'd love for you to be part of our group, part of our family here. So just hit that subscribe button, guys. That goes for everybody. If you're here in the live, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and hit the notification bell. The more the merrier. We are trying to grow our channel. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers as quickly as we can. And I can only do that with your help. So if you want to help, that would be awesome. I appreciate it. Laine has the flu, Laine. I heard somewhere else that perhaps that's what's going on with Savard as well, that they both have the flu. If that's the case, they're probably trying to keep both of those guys away from the team as much as they can. So yeah, we'll see. Who do you think Montreal will trade at the deadline, if anybody? I really don't know, Frank. I think it will depend on the offers that they get made. I think that Savard will probably be made available if if the right offers are. I don't think the Canadiens are going to be desperate to get rid of him, but if somebody puts in an offer that works for Montreal, I think that they'll consider that. I think there's probably a few other guys that they would consider as well, but I don't see them being super active at the trade deadline, to be quite honest. I mean, Jake Evans is, I guess, the big question. If they don't feel like they can re-sign him, do they try and trade him at the deadline? Do they try and trade him in the summer? I don't know. I'd like to see them re-sign Jake Evans. Personally, I know that there's a lot of debate about that, but we'll see. If you're over on TikTok, guys, come on over to the YouTube channel, Recliner Sports 4. We are live with the show Habs After Dark right now. If you want to join us and you have questions, you want to get into the conversation, come on over here. It's really easy. Just open up your YouTube app and go to Recliner Sports 4 and click on the show and come on in and join the comments. So this is not the old days like the Toe Blake era. Yes. Again, I think hockey has evolved a lot when it comes to coaching and management, and I'm really happy that the Canadiens have people in both of those jobs who appear to understand that and to be a little bit progressive about the way they operate hockey. Oh, did it finish 6-2? Wow, okay. I saw 4-1, and it was about, I don't know, there was about 6 or 7 minutes left in the game, I thought, but maybe maybe there was a lot of scoring that went on late in the game. I like when Jake Evans played with Suzuki and Caulfield. Yeah, not so much for me, Andre. Jake Evans' value to the Canadiens is not as a top 6 player. If Jake Evans is on the Canadiens, ideally he's playing on the fourth line. To me, having Jake Evans on the team as your fourth liner means that you've got probably one of the best fourth lines in the NHL. If Jake Evans is on your first or second line, you probably don't have elite top 6 forwards. So I prefer to see him lower down the lineup than on the first line. That's just my opinion. Certainly you're entitled to yours, but that's the way I look at it. For me, Jake Evans' value is that he plays really, really well for the role that he has, right? Can he go out and, play a game with Caulfield and Suzuki if he has to? That's part of the value he brings to the team as well. But on the long term, to me, Jake Evans' great value is that he's really good at the role he plays. And that's another thing that, I think Martin St. Louis recognizes and this team recognizes. Just because you're doing really, really well doesn't mean that you have to rush somebody. It's like the Dobesh thing, right? Like our friend Morantz, or whatever his name was, talking about moving Dobesh to be the number 1 goalie, right? Sometimes when you move a player, and I'll use some of Martin St. Louis' terminology here, when you move a player from one chair to another chair, they're not as good at that new chair as they were at the old chair, right? It's the same thing with Brendan Gallagher, right? Gallagher's playing, 11, 12, 13 minutes a game, and he's doing great. And, earlier in the year when he was, scoring lots of goals, everyone was saying, oh, put him up on the top 2 lines. Give him more ice time. Well, Brendan Gallagher's not going to do well with 18 or 19 minutes of ice time, right? He's old. He's got a lot of injuries that he's dealing with. He cannot play those minutes. So if you want to watch, he's even kind of fading a little bit now, with 11, 12 minutes a game. So the idea sometimes, just because somebody's doing well, it's not the best idea to think, well, this guy's doing well, I'm going to move him to another chair. It's not always the ideal situation, in my opinion. Evans, the role player, like you said, even when he's scoring as much, yeah, I agree. Like, again, he's a role player, and he's spectacular at his role. So, again, for me, why not leave him in that role? For me, that's my opinion. All right, guys, let's get to the A-team here real quick. Let's do this. So here we go, guys. Our A-team for tonight is, as you see on the screen in front of you, Emil Heineman, Yoel Armia, Cole Caulfield, and Jakub Dobesh. The A-team, for those of you who are newer here, is basically my take on the 3 stars. Rather than 3 stars, I have 4 stars. And in honor of the amazing, great 1980s television show, The A-Team, There were, of course, 4 members of the A team. So we have our 4 members of the A team, which we have after every game. And so tonight we have Heineman, Armia, Caulfield, and Dobesh. Again, second game in a row. I thought that Emil Heineman played great hockey. Again, another guy who is doing things that nobody expected. And a guy who is really good in the role he's on, and a guy who, I think we keep him in the role he's at. You can move him up the lineup if you need him desperately, but at the same time, he's a guy who, if you have him on your third or fourth line, certainly if you have him on your fourth line, you're doing pretty good, right? So again, if you can imagine in 2 or 3 years from now, you've got, Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky on your first line. You've got some sort of combination of, Demidov, Line and Doc, maybe Michael Hage is in there, or whatever. And then you've got sort of, a third line centered around, Alex Newhook or Joshua Roy or Oliver Kapanen or somebody like that. And then you've got a fourth line of Owen Beck, Jake Evans, and Emil Heineman, right? That's a spectacular fourth line. Great defensive play, can contribute offensively when necessary. Again, that's kind of what you're looking for. Now, obviously there's got to be, some work done as far as salary is concerned, but making sure that you can fit those guys under the cap. You can't pay your fourth liners too much money. And certainly for, a few years, Owen Beck is going to be on an entry-level contract and so on and so forth. But all that to say that Emil Heineman has been really, really good for Montreal. He's probably, I think Arpan Basu in his podcast talked about, Jake Evans can't be considered the unsung hero on the Canadiens anymore because he's being talked about too much. He's no longer unsung. And I think that if Jake Evans, loses that role, then I think the new unsung hero probably becomes Emil Heineman. Yoel Armia, again, I think Yoel Armia has been playing well lately. The bottom 6 all year. I think that certainly Gallagher and Anderson have been great. Dvorak's been playing better lately, and Armia's been playing well. So again, tonight Yoel Armia played a good game. He's really stepped up his defensive game. You saw in the third period, he kind of was assigned to, make sure that Nathan McKinnon didn't sort of pull off some late game magic. And I thought he had a really good game. Cole Caulfield was a bit of a late addition to the A team for me. I thought his third period was really, really good. Obviously, he scored the game tying goal, and then he scored again in the shootout. That's what you need, right? If Cole Caulfield is going to be the elite goal scorer on this team, you need him to score big goals at big times, and he did that tonight. You need him to to finish. You need him to score goals when it counts. So, and of course, Jakub Dobesh. And the only reason, this is not in any particular order. And again, I've said it before. The reason Jakub Dobesh is at the bottom is mainly because I don't like putting a goalie on my A team until the game is over. I don't want to jinx anybody. I don't want to screw anything up. So that's about it. If you're over there on TikTok, guys, if you want to join the conversation, come on over here to the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Recliner Sports 4. We're doing a live show called Habs After Dark. You're more than welcome to come. We'd love to have you. Please come on by if you want to talk about the Canadiens, if you want to talk about the game tonight, if you want to talk about hockey in general. All you do is open up your YouTube app, go to the channel Recliner Sports 4, and click on the show, and then you can come and join the comments. We've got about, how many people are in here right now? It says there's 35 people in here. I don't know that I believe that, but that might be the case. So if you want to join that, come on over. So yeah, so what do you think about that, guys? What do you think about that A team? Are you do you agree with the guys that I've picked? Do you disagree? Are there any guys that you think should be there that I haven't included? Are there any guys there who I included that you don't think should be there? So let's let me know. Jake will be traded. He is 28 and he will want a big paycheck. Yeah, I mean he may. I don't think there's any level of I don't think it's as certain as you're making it out to be, Andre. I don't know that anybody knows whether he'll be traded or not. Again, it depends on what he means by a big paycheck, and it depends on what he means, what it would mean to him to stay with this team, right? He's been with this team from the very beginning. He's a 7th-round draft pick. The Canadiens certainly showed faith in him. He didn't play great hockey early on in his career. He was in Laval for a while, and the Canadiens stuck with him, and they gave him an opportunity. And here he is now, 8-9 years later, and he's playing a significant role on the team. So yes, I think he'll want a big paycheck, and he'll deserve a big paycheck. But again, will he be willing to give the Canadiens a bit of a hometown discount because of the faith that they showed in him? And we talked earlier about the environment and the atmosphere that Martin St. Louis has created with this team, and how the players want to be here and they want to be a part of this, and it's an enjoyable place to be. So to what degree will Jake Evans be willing to and want to stay with the team and finish out this mission that they all have, right? I think that might happen, and again, so if he's willing to take less than $4 million, I would give him, if he's willing to take, again, I would offer him term as well, right? I would give him 5 or 6 years. Like, I'd be willing to give him 5 or 6 years if he took a little bit less money. Like, if he wants to take, $3.75 million, I would give him 5 or 6 years. Because in 5 or 6 years, $3.75 million, assuming the cap continues to increase the way it looks like it's going to, that's an affordable amount for a 4th-line player. So we'll see. Heineman, I'm not sure exactly. Somebody can look that up. I believe he's 22-ish, 23. Billy D, will be interesting to see what happens with the center position if Jake is signed with Kapanen and Beck coming up. Yeah. Again, if Beck, to me, again, I just mentioned it. To me, in a perfect world, you've got Beck, on a 4th line with Jake Evans, and Emil Heineman, or maybe Luke Tuck or Florian Jacki, somebody like that. One of those guys can play on the wing, and it's always beneficial to have 2 guys who can take faceoffs, right? So even if one of those guys is playing on the wing, I don't know which hand both of those guys are. I think they're both right-handed, so again, that might not be ideal, but anyways, Gooley deserves one. He played against McKinnon and Rantanen all night. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, again, I think there's a number of guys that probably deserved a spot on the A team tonight. Gooley, probably played well. I thought that Jacki probably, could have deserved some consideration as well. I think that Kirby Dach could have had some consideration as well. Who are we talking about there, Lanny? He has stepped up and taken a hold of his role. I think you're talking about Heineman. Yeah. I would have Dobash first, not last. Again, this is not in order, as I said, Frank. Again, I don't know if you were listening, but like I said, I don't like putting a goalie on the A team before the game ends. So I had a pretty good idea that Heineman and Armia were going to be on my A team earlier in the game, so sort of midway through the 3rd period. So when I started creating the graphic, I put those 2 guys on there. I added Caulfield late, and I don't like putting a goalie on the graphic until the game is over, because, like you say, it's you don't want to jinx a goalie by talking about their performance before it's over. You don't want to say, oh, what a great game Jakub Dobesh has, and then he gives up an absolute, stinker of a goal from the center line, in overtime to lose the game. So those guys are not in order. I don't know that I could have made it any clearer, but there it is. I feel like Heineman has the potential to go up the lineup. Again, Shal, for me, why would you move him up the lineup? Why are you moving him up the lineup? He's doing perfectly fine in the role that he's in. It's not like the players above him aren't doing well. It's not like there's a guy, on the 3rd line that's absolutely stinking it up who you want to replace. I don't know why you would move him up the lineup. André, je pense par contre que Evans peut seulement en demander autant. Je pense qu'il connaît son rôle, mais encore là, il sait qu'il n'aurait pas plus que 4 millions. Je suis pas convaincu, Charles-Olivier. Je pense qu'il va avoir une équipe dans la LNH qui pourrait lui offrir plus que 4 millions. Mais comme on vient juste de parler, pour moi, je pense que Jake Evans, c'est un joueur qui pourrait vouloir rester à Montréal pour plusieurs raisons. Le Canadien lui a montré loyauté. Ils ont donné une chance. Il y a beaucoup d'équipes dans la LNH qui n'auraient pas donné la même opportunité à un joueur comme Jake Evans que le Canadien lui a donné. Comme j'ai dit, c'est une sélection de 7e ronde dans le repêchage. C'est un joueur que son développement, ça a pris beaucoup de temps. Il est resté à Laval ou dans la Ligue américaine pour plusieurs années avant de venir à Montréal. Et il y a beaucoup d'équipes qui ne lui auraient pas donné la même chance. They would have quit on him well before that. There's a lot of teams that would have given up on him and not re-signed him or traded him or whatever. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity there to get him at a decent price. Owen, what's going on? Owen is a TikTok guy. Owen was a former TikTok follower. Well, thank you for coming over here, Owen. I appreciate it. When Fowler comes to the show, will the Canadiens give him a trial, or just send him down to the AHL? I don't think that it's reasonable to expect Fowler to immediately join the NHL. I think, if he does come to Montreal at the end of this season, I think that they might, as a bit of a reward, allow him to play in a game at the end of the season. Again, I think it would depend on what the circumstances are with the team and where they are as far as playoffs and all of that kind of thing goes. Again, I have no idea where they'll be at that stage. Obviously, it's a lot easier to give, a game to, a defenseman or a forward than it is to a goalie. The other thing too is what they often do is so by doing that, they burn a year of their entry level contract. So, it's showing the player a bit of it's a bit of a boost or a show of confidence, I guess, that you believe in that player, and that they're going to be a part of your future by allowing them to burn 1 year of their entry level contract. That's what they did with Lane Hudson last year. So again, goalies are obviously a bit of a different situation, but I guess the real answer to your question is, even if they do give him that, game, at the end of the season as a bit of a reward, I do, expect that he'll spend some, a significant amount of time in the American Hockey League before he ever gets a chance to play for the Montreal Canadiens on a regular basis. So Lanny Dvorak is a great defensive style forward. Hunter taught him well for that role. You're talking about Hunter in the London Knights. Yeah. I mean, Dvorak's game has evolved, I think, a little bit. I don't know that I would call him a great defensive forward. I think he's a good defensive forward, and he's definitely improved that aspect of his game this year. I think, again, he recognizes what chair he's in, right? He recognizes that he's in that chair, and that, in order to be in that chair, he has to play the game a certain way, and he's been able to do that. So, yeah. Again, I think it was a bit of a struggle for him early in the year, but one of the reasons why the Canadiens are succeeding right now is that they're having contributions from, the entire lineup. It's, top to bottom. Goalie was solid in overtime. Yeah, I mean, Goalie had a good match. Goalie had a good game. I think, again, on a night like that, there's a lot of guys, it's always nice when you have, a hard time picking from amongst a number of players to put on your A team, as opposed to, some other nights earlier in the year where it was like you couldn't even really find 4 guys who deserved to be on the team. You're struggling to find 4 guys that, had a good enough game to consider, even putting them on there. Good night, Intertap. Great talking to you. Thanks for coming by, pal. Andre, I hope Jake stays. I do as well. Gooley played well. I agree. We talked about that. I'm sure someone will offer. Yeah, I don't know why. Again, I don't know how much they'll offer him, Andre. I think somebody will offer him some money. Again, I think it'll come down to whether or not he's willing to offer the Canadiens a bit of a hometown discount or not. All right, Frank, thank you, pal. Have a good one, man. Thank you for coming, as always. Thank you for the thumbs up. If you haven't given a thumbs up yet, guys, we've got 24 there already. We've got a thumbs down, which is always nice. I think that's our first ever thumbs down, maybe our second, since we started doing the show a couple months ago. But yeah, if you're in here and you're enjoying what you're seeing, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button down below. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers. We are trying to grow the channel. We're trying to grow our community here, where we like to talk hockey. We'd like to talk hockey in a civil, an intelligent way. You go on the internet anywhere and just sort of blabber about how great the Canadiens are and how crappy the Maple Leafs and everybody else is. But if you want to actually talk about hockey, this is the place where I hope you feel comfortable doing that. So if you're not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell, and the thumbs up like button would be awesome too. Not this year for Heineman, but eventually I would like to think Heineman will probably make his way up the lineup. The lines are perfect right now. Yeah, I don't see that, Charles Olivier. I just don't. I don't see where he makes it into the top six. Like the competition to make it in the top six for the Canadiens is going to be really, really steep, right? So do you see him maybe getting onto the third line? Yeah, maybe. But again, the benefit to guys like Heineman and Evans is the contributions they make from the chair that they're in, right? So 10 goals for Heineman is incredible for a guy who's playing 12 minutes a night and who's playing on the fourth line. But 10 goals for Heineman if he's on the second line is not that special. It's not that great, right? So again, Heineman's performance is great, but it's great vis-a-vis the role that he's playing on the team as well. Who do I have, Finland or USA in the gold medal game? I don't really care, to be honest with you at this point, Owen. I don't mean this. I don't mean to poo-poo your question. I'm not really following it. I suppose part of me would like to see Finland win it, but also I'd kind of like to see the U.S. win it as well. Back to back, good for them. I think their program's going really, really well right now. Heineman is 23, okay. But again, Finland, the underdog, I'd love to see that happen as well. Plus, I think the Canadiens have at least 3 Finns on their team. I think it's 3 Finns on their team. It'd be kind of cool to see the Finns pull it off as well. Wiggs, welcome. Love Dobesh play, but I don't get the thought process of Marty giving Monty the start against Chicago and Dobesh tonight. I'll give you my theory on it, Wiggs, if you want. The Chicago game was a trap game, right? So what I mean by a trap game, if you don't know what that term means, is that, they're coming off 3 huge wins over Florida, Tampa, and Las Vegas, and they're coming out against one of the worst teams in the league in Chicago. And so, part of becoming a winner is, not falling into those kinds of traps, right? Not showing up against, a weaker team and playing down to their level and losing that game. And so, not letting down, not letting off the pedal, going just as hard against Chicago as you do against, Las Vegas. And that, the risk there, especially for a young, immature team, is that they're going to take Chicago lightly and that they're going to, not come out and give everything they have and perhaps, lose some of the momentum that they built by beating the Panthers and the Lightning and so on and so forth. So my theory on it is that perhaps Marty St. Louis was trying to teach the team a lesson, and he was trying to send them a message that this is a trap game and we can't let up, and we have to show up and we have to put our best foot forward, even though this is one of the worst teams in the league. And, one of the ways that he sent that message is by saying, we're not going to play our backup goalie just because, the team that we're playing against is weaker than the team we're going to play tomorrow. We're going to go out there and we're going to try and get those 2 points, and we're going to get those 2 points, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow. And so I think maybe he's sending a message to the team that I'm not going to let off or let down or take my foot off the pedal against a weaker team in Chicago just because they're in last place by playing our backup goalie. And so, I don't want you guys to let up. So we're going to put our best team forward. That's sort of my theory on it. I guess we'll never know unless we ask him, but, that was my take on it. Obviously there's other theories. I mean, one theory I heard as well is that, they wanted to ensure that they get that victory over Chicago. So that they, even if they did lose in Colorado, they still come out of the road trip with a certain number of points. It's again, and the other issue is, maybe they want to get to the point where they feel comfortable playing their goalie against anybody. It doesn't matter who we play; we can put either one of our goalies in net, and I think they kind of proved that. They kind of proved that. So, the Canadiens also are a team who, over the last few years, including, at stages, even recently, other teams put their backup goalie in nets. Oh, another thumbs down, guys. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. They're a team who have seen, a lot of other teams are giving them, the backup goalie, right? So, maybe that's got something to do with it as well, right? They're showing some respect. So, yeah. All right, Charles-Olivier, merci beaucoup, bonsoir. Maybe we'll see you next time. It's been really great to have you, and please subscribe, and we'd love for you to come back, and we'll see you down the road. Soderblom was amazing. There's a thumbs up to make up for that thumbs down. If you don't like the show, guys, let me know what you don't like about it. Feel free to post something in the comments. Again, if you're posting a thumbs down just because you disagree with what my opinions or whatever, then I think that's kind of lame. But if you don't like the show and you're giving us a thumbs down, then feel free to let me know in the comments what it is you don't like about it. I'm certainly happy to take on board any criticism. Soderblom was amazing that game. Now we know how it felt for when Price was still well, and even last year, Wiggs, right? When there were games last year where the Canadiens got massively outplayed by good hockey teams, but Sam Montembeault kept them in the game, and they'd pull off a 2-1 win or a 3-2 win, what have you. So yeah, the roles are reversed, right? Last night the Canadiens were the better team, and they got goalied by I don't want to call him an unknown goalie, but a relative unknown. But yeah, it's never nice to be on the losing side, but it's kind of interesting and to be on the other side of that situation. Let's go quickly to our report card, guys. If you're not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button right below here. Hit the notification bell if you're watching live, if you're here on the show. If you're watching in a replay, guys, please do so as well. If you're watching the replay, you enjoy the content, please subscribe. We do, it does help. It does, it does help the channel, it helps us grow. So if you're watching live, if you're watching in a replay, if you're over there on TikTok, come on over here onto YouTube and join the show. The thumbs up are great as well. So yeah, that's awesome, guys. Thank you very much. We'll get to our report card real quick here. Again, it's a clean sheet, generally speaking, on the report card. The report card, for those of you who are relatively new here, this is essentially my way of judging the Canadiens and the way they play. Sometimes when your team is rebuilding, it's not always the wins and losses that matter. It's how you play the game. It's how you win, how you lose. Sometimes you can win and play really well. Sometimes you can win and play really bad. Sometimes you can lose and play really well. So this report card is kind of what we do to sort of review how the team has done and what we think of the game, or what I think of the game. I think at this stage I might have to start moving on from the report card because I think the team has sort of turned a bit of a corner and moved on to another stage of the rebuild. But this is what we're doing for now. We've got check marks across the board, with the exception of 3 or more goals. So again, 3 goals per game is a bit of a standard in the NHL. If you're scoring more than 3 goals per game, you're probably in the mix for a playoff spot. If you're allowing 3 or fewer goals a game, you're also probably a playoff team. If you do both of those things, it's almost certain that you're right in the mix for a playoff. You're going to be a pretty good team, and you're going to be playing meaningful playoff games. So tonight the Canadiens weren't able to score 3 or more goals. Again, the 2-1 final. But they certainly, the defensive side of the game, which has been the more difficult aspect of their game, they were able to do that against a really good team tonight. The only goal by the Habs was the backhand pass by Lane Hudson to Suzuki. Yes. So So on the goal that the Canadiens scored, Bunny House, Lane Hudson got caught pinching in his own end. Jake Evans came back, covered for him, knocked the puck away from the Colorado player. Lane Hudson, who was busting it back, got the puck after Evans knocked it off the Colorado player's stick. Hudson passed the puck to Suzuki in the neutral zone and sent Suzuki and Caulfield in on a 2-on-1. Suzuki made the pass to Caulfield, and Caulfield scored the goal. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's the summary of that goal. Sorry, I guess I could have switched over to this while I was doing all of that. Special teams, I thought tonight was good. Obviously, they allowed a power play goal, but I believe they killed 4 power plays, including one in a very, very crucial part of the game at the end of the game. I thought the engagement, effort, and energy was there all night. Again, it was a bit of a low event game, but again, it was the game that was presented to them. And defensively, it was the game they needed to play in order to win against the Colorado Avalanche. Progress, yes, the Canadiens continue to progress. This was a game in the right direction. I do think there will be steps backwards, as this team continues to play and as the rebuild moves on. But this, this victory, this win over a very good Colorado team is a step in the right direction. Pride, I thought they showed pride again, back to back. With travel, they came out, they played well. In fact, they played better than Colorado, certainly in the second and third period. And they kind of, again, it was a close game. I'm not going to say they dominated in any way, but they were the better. They kind of ran away with the game in the sense that they were the better team as the game ended, and it was pretty clear at the end of the game who the better team was. Discipline, again, this is where I normally would go on my rant about the referees. I don't think we have time to do this. Is this live? Yes, it is live, Bob. I don't think I have time to go into a full rant about the referees right now, other than to say that I thought that it was absolutely atrocious. The state of refereeing in the NHL is a disaster. They've got to do something about it. The league is a bush league as long as they don't. The inconsistency of the calls, the pure lack of game management by the referees, their inability to control the game is just too much. The call at with 1:45 left in the game, a completely phantom hooking call against Nathan McKinnon after he already got a chance to score on goal. Giving them a power play with in a 1-1 game with less than 2 minutes left in the game was just a disaster. Peter, welcome. Thank you. We're almost towards the end of the show. We've been on for about an hour and a half now, but I do appreciate it. I thank you very much for subscribing. We go live with Habs After Dark after every Canadiens game. If you like the content, if you enjoy talking about the Canadiens after the game, then certainly come on by. We normally start the show about 10 or 15 minutes after the game's over. It takes me a little bit of time to get my act together with the graphics and so on before we get live. But yeah, it's great to have you, and I appreciate it. If you enjoy the content, you've already subscribed. That's awesome. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the notification bell. Tell your friends if you think you have other people that might be interested in this kind of content. What we're trying to do here, we perhaps don't always achieve it, but we're trying to bring you guys intelligent and civil conversation about hockey and the Montreal Canadiens, right? It's pretty hard to have civil conversation on the internet right now about sports. Hopefully we can bring that here. We try to keep it pretty objective and intelligent too, right? We're not just about rah-rah Montreal, we're the best. We try to sort of get a little bit deeper than that. So anyways, that's the spiel. If you enjoy it, come on by. We're not going to be on much longer here tonight. Just like I said, we've been on for about an hour and a half, but this is what we do. So you can watch the show either live or you can watch it in a replay. Lanny says, being in a rebuild mode, there's a kid in London that could be a late steal in the draft and a great for the bottom 6. His name is Evan Van Gorp. Okay. I will have to ask, I have to look into that, Lanny. I had a lot of guys, I used to do, before I did YouTube, this show on YouTube, I used to do TikTok Lives. And when I did TikTok Lives, there were a lot of guys who would join my TikTok Lives, guys and girls who would join my TikTok Lives who were either from London or were London Knights fans. One guy in particular was a guy named Wilbs, who I think is a bit of a London Knights super fan. So we had a lot of talks about the the London Knights and the players that they've had come up over the last couple of years. So I'm always on the lookout for guys like that. I haven't dove deep into the draft just yet. As far as who's available, obviously the top line guys, the top name guys, Hagen and Martone and Misa and Schaefer, and those guys are all sort of out there and everybody knows who they are. But the reality is, in my opinion, I don't believe that the Canadiens will be drafting unless they get really lucky. I don't think they'll be drafting anywhere near a spot to get any of those guys. I think they're probably more likely to be closer to the 12 to 15 range as far as where they pick this year. So I think it's going to require a little bit of a deeper dive and digging a little bit deeper into the draft this year to see who the Canadiens, who will be available to the Canadiens and who would be, some of the good options for them to draft. So Frank seems bipolar. Yeah, Frank's a good guy. Frank's a regular. Frank follows the team. Frank's really loves the Canadiens. He's into it. When the Canadiens are doing well, he's all over the team, and he's ready to plan a Stanley Cup. And when they're down, he's down. So that's not uncommon. That's I'd say that's probably about 65%, 70% of the Montreal Canadiens fans, to be quite honest with you. But it's all good. It takes all kinds, and Frank's been a regular here, and he comes by and he comments and he supports me and supports the channel. So I appreciate Frank. Do I think Hughes will package both Calgary's pick and their own pick to pick higher? I don't know. I think he'll obviously explore all of the options. And if there's an opportunity for him to package those two picks to move up, I think it's something he certainly will consider. But what I will say is that it's extraordinarily rare, for teams to move up, sort of into the top 10 of the draft, right? So like, if let's say the Calgary pick is, let's say the Canadiens end up with like the 12th and the 13th pick. The idea of combining those two picks to move up into the top 10, I don't know that that's a realistic option. I don't know that there's any team in the league that would trade you, a number 9 for a 12 and a 13. They might, don't know. But history tells us that hasn't happened very often. And again, it'll depend on the players that are available, and it'll depend on the teams that you're talking about, what their needs are, who they're really, interested in, or, what they, we'll see. We'll see. And will it really be to Montreal's benefit to move, up unless they, like at what point does it not really become worth their while to move up? Like, do they have to get into the top 5? Do they have to get into the top, so the reality is I don't think they're getting into the top 5. Can they get into the top 10? Maybe. But again, I have great faith in the Montreal Canadiens scouting staff and their ability to find and draft the right guys, that if they are drafting, 2 guys in sort of that 10 to 15 range, I'm pretty confident in their ability to come out of that with, 2 pretty good hockey players. Like they've shown that to us already, that's, again, it's another part of the rebuild, right? We talk about all the different aspects of the rebuild. Like earlier tonight, we talked about, the management and the coaching staff, and how, it's not just about the roster, that, you have to pick the right people to coach the team. You have to pick the right people to manage the team. The scouting staff is part of that, right? The first stage of a rebuild is, amassing assets, gathering assets, right? Getting as many draft picks as you can and bringing in as many prospects as you can. The most effective way to do that is to go and make sure that you have the best scouting staff in the league, and putting parameters and systems and plans in place about who you're going to draft and how you're going to draft. And I think they've done that. So again, I'm quite confident that, even if they're not picking in the top 10, that the Canadiens, will come out of the draft with prospects who have a good chance of being good in the NHL. I have 30 likes. I have 29 likes, Bob, and 1 thumbs down. But it is live. sorry to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Who are we talking about, Lanny? He sits with 11 goals. Oh, we're talking about Evan Van Gorp. 11 goals and 17 assists right now as a London bottom six player. Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out for him. I'll keep an eye out for him for sure. They should have won the game in Chicago. The referees were shit. Well, yeah, I don't know about that. I think the goalie, Soderblom, was a bigger factor than the referee. The referees were absolutely shit tonight. And they're typically pretty shit, but I don't think they really impacted the game last night, to be honest. Not in any great significant way, I guess. Peter, depends if you're talking 7-4. It rarely happens. Yeah, it's hard to move up. It's hard to move up that high in the draft, to be honest with you. Yeah, Charbonneau and Desnoyers. I know Desnoyers a little bit. I don't know Charbonneau that well. The reason I know Desnoyers is because his brother played for the Halifax Mooseheads back in the day. Yeah, I think either of those guys will be available. Again, I have utmost faith in the management and scouting team to pick the right guy. Demidov will be the best Habs player since Guy Lafleur, and I'm not on drugs. Well, again, I hope he is too. I'm a little bit more objective about, prospects. I certainly hope that he does all of that stuff because I think it will be fun to be able to watch. And obviously it will, make the team a lot better. But again, I think, we all have to prepare ourselves for the fact that, not all of these prospects are going to live up to expectation and some of them aren't even going to make it. So again, I don't expect that and I don't hope for that. But again, not every prospect makes it. So, all indications are that Demidov's going to be really special and fun to watch. And I will be watching him tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I believe he plays at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. I watch him probably as much as anybody. So I'm excited to see him play. But again, I'm also reasonable about my expectations. I get it. We're fans. We want them all to do well. But again, there's a difference between saying, I hope he becomes the best player since Guy Lafleur. And I think he's, got a lot of potential versus saying, he is going to be the best player since Guy Lafleur. But anyways, it is what it is. Caulfield and Gooley were 13 picks. Yep. Yeah, again, we'll see. We'll see. That's tempting, but they'll do it, in my opinion, if they really want a specific player. Yeah, I am live, Bob. Live. I don't look this handsome. I only look this handsome in live, Bob. I don't look this handsome recorded. Merci beaucoup, Andre. It was great to meet you as well. I do look forward to seeing you again in the future. I look forward to having you part of our of the Recliner Sports family. Yeah, it's great to meet you. And it was c'était bien le fun d'avoir l'opportunité de parler en français aussi. Et si vous voulez que je réponds à tes questions en français, feel free to ask me French questions, Andre, English, whatever. Heard 15 top are good, but not really in depth higher this year. Well, again, I think I don't hate that idea, Bob. Right? So that just means that when they tell you that the draft only goes 15 deep or it only goes 10 or 12 deep, then to me that's when the best scouting staffs shine. Right? That's when the best scouting staff shine. When you have to really do your work, when it's really really hard, and you really have to figure out who the guys are, that's when the best scouting staffs do the best work, right? That's when you get guys like, Cole Caulfield in the outside of the first round. That's when you get, your Michael Hages. That's when you get, your guys that not everybody really is sure is that great, but because you spent more time and you've, got a better eye. Dobesh is a beast. Yes, he certainly has been a beast. He was a beast tonight, and he was a beast against the Panthers last week. I have seen Lafleur play. Demidov reminds me of Pierre LaRouche. Okay, I have also seen Lafleur play. Yeah, I could see Pierre LaRouche. I've seen Pierre LaRouche play as well, both for the Canadiens and for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah, I mean, I see that. His style is not. I don't think he has a Guy Lafleur style of play. I don't know who he reminds me of. I'd have to think about that. I'd have to think about that. Pierre LaRouche was a great hockey player, 50-goal scorer. Tandem in 3, Dobesh and Fowler. Tandem in 3, Dobesh and Fowler. I don't know what you mean by that, Bob. I'm sorry. Demidov's had a lot. He does, 100%, Laney. He's a spectacular hockey player. I mean, he's been spectacular at every level he's played at so far. Again, that's no guarantee that he's going to be spectacular at the NHL level. He was great in the MHL last year. Broke records there. He's great in the KHL right now. If you've been watching him, if you could figure out a way to watch the games, he is really, really fun to watch. Salut Ghislain, welcome. Thank you for being here for your first time. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We would love to have you as part of our Recliner Sports family. On parle en français, en anglais ici. Si vous avez des questions en français, si vous faire des commentaires en français, feel free. We do both French and English. So, yeah. That's it. If you want to, be part of this, we'd love to have you. We're kind of shutting her down for tonight, guys. I still see there's a lot of questions coming in, but we've been live for almost an hour and 45 minutes, so I think it's almost time to shut things down. Hi, former Habs owner Bobby Smith. I wish I was Bobby Smith. Oh, you're asking if he's Bobby Smith. I gotcha. I don't believe he is Bobby Smith, but he could be. It would be really cool if he was. I don't think Bobby Smith is spending a whole lot of time on YouTube talking hockey after Montreal Canadiens game, but it would be cool if he was. But yeah, Bobby Smith, former Ottawa 67, former Minnesota North Star, former Montreal Canadien, and former owner of the Halifax Mooseheads. But I don't believe it's the same person. You're just saying what you read. What are we talking about here now? Not sure I'm getting where you're going here with this, Bob. Sorry. Caulfield was 50 and Hudson was 62. Yes. My father was also named Robert. Okay, pas de problème. He's yesterday goal de toute beauté. Demidov is playing with men. Yeah, so I guess the general consensus is that the KHL is sort of maybe half a step behind the American Hockey League. But he's dominating that league. When he's on the ice, when he's given opportunities, he's doing things that other players just can't do. So, all right, Lanny, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys. Yes, you bring up a good point, Lanny. If you do want to follow me on Blue Sky, guys, I do have a Blue Sky account. The Blue Sky account is also called Recliner Sports. I've abandoned, for the most part, Twitter. I don't love it there, much for the same reason I left TikTok. I find it to be a little bit too toxic for me. I feel like Blue Sky is a better place to have real interaction and real, I don't know, it's a better place to post your content. I just like it better. So if you want to follow us over there, that's great. We also have a website, reclinersports.ca, where I post written content. Haven't been a lot of written content on there lately, but I do hope to get back to that. So again, if you want to follow us on Blue Sky, and you want to go and check out our website, that would be awesome as well. That goes for those of you who are watching live, and to those of you who are watching this in a replay as well. If you've gotten this far into a replay, then that's awesome. I appreciate this. Hopefully you will subscribe and join our family. Again, YouTube tells me that only 35% of the people who watch the show are actually subscribed. So I really wish that we could get that number up. And again, we're trying to get to 500 subscribers, and we can only do that with your help. So, Paul, great podcast. Thank you. You just found this. How do you know my name today? Oh, my name is on the screen. Sorry, guys. That's my brain fart for the night. I was going to ask you, how do you know my first name? But it's right there on the screen, obviously. Just found this. I think the Habs are turning a corner. 42 games left. We'll see where it ends up. Hopefully a wild card would be nice. If not, just give the fans entertaining hockey. Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I'm with you. Again, I think they are turning a corner. I don't know that they've turned the corner or are turning or have turned the corner. But yeah, I don't think that it's going to be milk and honey for the rest of the year, I think there are going to be setbacks. There's going to be negatives. There are going to be steps backwards, but they are certainly taking a step forward right now. They are moving to a different stage of their development. But again, I don't think, as you've heard this 1,000 times from, different people, whether it's the coaching staff or whatever, development isn't always linear. It doesn't always head in one direction. Sometimes it goes down and then it goes back up and then it goes down and then it goes back up. And I think we are going to see some of that, especially with some of the young players. So, but no, I think you're absolutely right, Paul. I think they're definitely taking steps in the right direction, and it's really fun to watch. And if some of the teams who a lot of people expected to be ahead of them this year continue to falter, I think that you're right. I think they could be in the discussion for a wild card spot at the end of the year if things continue to progress this way. If the Rangers continue to fall, if the Islanders continue to fall, if the Sabres continue to fall. Those are teams that the Canadiens could. And again, right? They've just won 4 games against 4 of arguably the best teams in the NHL, and they've demonstrated that they can play against anybody, and that they can beat anybody. So if they can keep that momentum going and they can continue to implement the lessons that they've been learning this year, how to win hockey games, I think that we'll be fine. Dobesh, Fowler are tandem in 3 years. Again, it depends. Obviously Fowler is making moves in the right direction. He's been good at every level he's been at, but there's still a couple levels that he needs to. There's still a couple more levels that he needs to cross before he becomes an NHL hockey player. And goaltenders typically take a little bit longer to do that. So, again, much like Demidov, I really hope Fowler does well. He has a ton of potential. He looks great. And if things continue to progress the way they have, and he becomes the player that he appears he's capable of becoming, then I would say that he probably will be the Canadiens' number 1 goalie one day. Whether the backup is Dobesh or Montembeault or some other guy that we don't even know about, or Caden Primo, who knows? Who knows? But again, like I said, for me, when I look at prospects, what I look for is. No, it's okay, Bob. Don't be worried. No need to apologize. What I look for in prospects is, obviously when you draft a prospect, they're typically playing, junior hockey, or they're either, at the very early stages of their NCAA career, or they're over in Europe playing in a junior league, right? And, obviously they're playing quite well at that level because that's what's got them drafted. But, after that, they move to another level. They move to the next stage. And, do they continue to dominate and to play well at that level? And if they do, then okay, well, that prospect's on his way. And then they move up to another level. So for Jacob Fowler, right, they drafted him, and, he was in the U.S. national team development program, and they drafted him out of there, and he did really well there. And then he went to Boston College, and it was like, okay, is he going to be just as good at Boston College against NCAA competition? Well, guess what? Yeah, he was. And he was better in his second, he was good in his first year. He was better. He's been better so far in his second year. So then, he's going to go from that. And if he decides to come out of Boston College this year, he'll probably play in the American League next year. He may go back to the NCAA for another year. And, does he continue to improve and get better and continue to dominate at that level? Then he'll come to the American Hockey League one day. And, does he continue to dominate at the American Hockey League level? Is he still one of the best goalies in the league? Like, does he continue to progress at that level? And if he does, then you say to yourself, okay, maybe this guy's going to make it in the NHL, right? They have to continue to dominate and to be the best players at every single level. And that's the way you look at any prospect. And, some prospects do that. They go all the way up all the levels, like Lane Hudson, right? Lane Hudson skipped a level, right? He went straight to the NHL, and it doesn't appear to have affected him. Logan Mailloux, right? Looked really good in Laval last year. It was the rookie, was he rookie defenseman of the year, something like that. One of the best rookie defensemen in the American Hockey League. Looked like he was ready to go, and it was like he dominated the American Hockey League last year. Then he came up this year and he just didn't have it. And now he's back down there and he's kind of struggling a little bit. So again, these guys have to continue to progress through all of the stages of their development. Need 2 more years, give time to mature a bit. Beck, Demidov, hate. Exactly, Bob. Again, these guys all need time. It's all about time. Sorry, sometime I does not register on my keyboard. That's okay, Gislain, pas de problème. Thanks, man. Appreciate your work putting this together. The positive non-toxic vibes. Well, I appreciate it, Billy. I'm trying. I'm trying for that. That is our ultimate goal: is to have a non-toxic, sort of civil, intelligent conversation about hockey. Eventually, I'll get to the point where I'll start having other people on the show with me in the live. I don't think I'm able to do that. Well, I'm definitely not able to do that just yet. So, again, I appreciate that you've subscribed, and I hope to see you again down the road. Being bilingual, it's bizarre. Those who can confirm you start translating and pass a point. You start thinking in a different language. Weird. Yeah, I'm bilingual. I grew up in Montreal. I went to high school in French. However, I've lived in Nova Scotia for the last 25 years, and my French has gotten a little bit rusty. And so I don't get the opportunity to use it anymore very often. So one of the fun things about doing this show is that I do get to speak French, and I do find myself struggling a little bit at times, but I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to answer people in French and to have a conversation in French. And to be fair, I mean, if you're not speaking French, you're missing out on a big portion of the Montreal Canadiens fan base, right? And so for me, I want to talk to as many people as I can. And if you can't, if you're not going to open up the door to francophone people and try and respond to them in their language, then you're missing out on a portion of the fan base. So that's 140 games pro will suffice. Might be a backup first year and a half NHL. 1 year in Laval for Fowler. Well, again, it depends how he it depends on how he progresses, right? Maybe he plays no games in the AHL. I mean, I certainly think he'll play to a certain degree in the AHL. But again, Lane Hudson is doing things as a 20-year-old defenseman in the NHL, playing 21, 22 minutes a game on, essentially now on the top pairing. That's kind of unheard of. Like, who's the last person who did that? Right? It doesn't happen very often. Right? So, the idea that Jacob Fowler, can't, get to the NHL as quickly as he can. Well, maybe he can. Maybe he's the anomaly. Maybe, I've read interviews with him where he says that's one of his goals is to buck that trend. Can he do it? I don't know. And, maybe he's working as a plumber in 5 years from now. Right? There's any number of different scenarios that could happen here. We don't know. So that's just about it. Cabot Trail, okay. Golf, yeah, okay. Yeah, great place to play golf down in Cape Breton. Learning another language is always a plus. Well, I agree. I mean, I'm super happy. I mean, the Quebec government kind of forced me to learn another language, but I'm certainly glad they did. I didn't really have a choice, but I'm glad I did. Je suis très content d'être capable de parler en français. Je suis très content d'être capable de communiquer avec le monde en français ici à Québec. Les Acadiens à France, it's great, right? Habla un poquito español, when I go to Mexico on vacation. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, so yeah, it's really nice. So I think that's a good time to end the show, guys. We've been on here for quite some time, about 2 hours. It's a long show, but we had a lot of interaction. It was awesome. I'm not even going to go through the whole list of all the people that were here tonight. There were just too many, to be quite honest with you. We've got 32 thumbs up. Maybe if you're still here and you haven't given a thumbs up yet, feel free, pound that thumbs up button. The more the merrier. We've got 32 so far, which I think is the most we've ever had on a live. But yeah, the more the better. If you haven't subscribed yet, then it would be awesome if you would. I just added this cool little graphic to our. How do we do this? If I can. Maybe I do this, then I do this. So I added this new cool little graphic right down, right there. Subscribe, like, notification bell. So yeah, so if you're here live, you're not subscribed yet, please do so. Please subscribe. We are trying to grow. We're trying to get the channel to 500 subscribers. If you're watching in a replay, you enjoy the content, it'd be great if you would subscribe as well. We do this show live after every Montreal Canadiens game, Habs After Dark. We get on the air about 15 minutes after the game. We talk about the game. We talk about the players. We talk about the team. We talk about the other teams. If not so much tonight. Everybody wanted to talk about the Canadiens, but last night we had people in here who want to talk about the Rangers. We had people in here that want to talk about the Vancouver Canucks. We had all kinds of different stuff. So, Jackson, come on over to YouTube. Ask your question over here. We're doing a show on YouTube. If you want to ask your question, you want to be a part of the show, come on over here and join us. If you're over there on TikTok, follow the instructions on the screen behind me. Open up your YouTube app. Come over to Recliner Sports 4. We go live, like I said, after every Montreal Canadiens game. We do a show, Habs After Dark. I'm not going to say we do every game, but we try our best to get on after every game, and we talk about the game. If you enjoy that, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. Tell your friends if you feel like they would enjoy it as well. I also go live and I co-host with Coach Frenchie at Habs Nation Live. For any of you guys that are on that show, I am usually on with him at least once or twice a week as well, and I do some commentary with him. Really great time, really great show, and I invite you to check that out as well. He doesn't really do post-game stuff. He does sort of different shows through the week, where he talks about the team in general, and he also does play-by-play. Speaking of the devil, there's Marco, another one of the co-hosts over at Habs Nation Live. Certainly much better at it than I am, and has been around a lot longer and has been doing it with Coach Frenchie for a longer time than me. But again, myself, Marco, and Entertap all join Coach Frenchie at various times, and we have a great time over there. So if you're looking for smart, civil discussion about the Montreal Canadiens, he's another great spot to check out as well. So, unfortunately, Marco, you're joining the show about 2 hours in, and I'm about to end things. So, that's just about it for me tonight. My voice is just about had all I can take, or all it can take. So I'm going to shut things down there. I really, it's awesome, guys. This was a great show. We have more comments than ever tonight. We've got 35 thumbs up. I'll be happy to see how many new subscribers we got tonight. Hopefully we got a few. But I do appreciate all of your support. I appreciate your commentary. I appreciate your civility. I appreciate the intelligence and the objectivity that you're bringing to our discussion. And like I said, this is a pretty new endeavor for me. I'm trying to grow the channel. I'm trying to grow the family. And hopefully we will, get more and more and more of you. I am looking at doing another show, which I'll probably, maybe a daytime show, if you guys are interested, which will be sort of more about the team in general and not any specific game. I think it's going to be called Habs Therapy Day. If that interests you as well, again, like I said, if you like the content, hit the subscribe button, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching in a replay, all of that good stuff. I love it. I love you guys. I love being able to do this. I love being able to, to be honest with you, who's sitting in front of their TV screen, in front of their computer, for 2 hours on a Saturday night after a Montreal Canadiens game. It's because I love it. It's because I enjoy conversating with you guys. It's because I enjoy the chat, and I like meeting new people. I like meeting new Canadiens fans, and I just love doing it. So if you enjoy the content, then feel free to subscribe. Feel free to join our family. And hopefully we can spend some more time together down the road. So that's it for tonight. The Montreal Canadiens 2-1 shootout victory over the Colorado Avalanche. The post-Christmas road trip is over. The Canadiens go 4-1. They beat Florida. They beat Tampa. They beat Las Vegas. And they beat Colorado. And they mix in a loss to the Chicago Blackhawks. Through all of that, Jackson Laine is not injured. He has the flu. So it's, again, a huge step in the right direction for this team. I think there still will be some steps backwards, but they are moving in the right direction. They've definitely proven a lot of things to themselves. I listened to Tony Marinaro and Brian Wild the other day on the Marinaro podcast. I highly recommend listening to Marinaro when he has Brian Wild and Eric Engels on. I don't know that there's any real value in listening. Maybe Pierre Maguire as well. But otherwise, I don't, whatever. But again, when those two guys are on, certainly have a listen. And I remember they talked at length about the fact that the Canadiens have, they believe now. They believe that they can play with anyone in the NHL. They believe that they are capable of things that they didn't believe they could be. And I think they had it only partly right. The Canadiens don't believe that they can play with anybody. They don't believe that they can beat the best teams in the NHL. After this last 2 weeks and this road trip, now they know that they can do that stuff, right? I think they always believed they could do it, right? They believed all along, that they were learning and they were developing and they were working towards being able to play with the best that the NHL has to offer. They've always believed that. But now, after this week, with all due respect to Brian Wild and to Tony Marinaro, the Montreal Canadiens now know that they can play with these guys. They know that they can beat the Florida Panthers. They know that they can beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. They know that they can beat the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They know that they can beat the Colorado Avalanche. They know they're a good team. And I think that's a big difference. Believing it is one thing, but knowing it is another. And now they know that they can do all of this stuff. And so they have a point of reference to come back to when those inevitable steps backwards, come down the road. When they do, face, some rough times, when they do face some adversities, they have a point of reference now to come back to, because they now know that they're capable of doing this. So that's all for me tonight, guys. Again, 2-1 Montreal over the Colorado Avalanche. This has been Habs After Dark. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I certainly enjoyed myself. It's been a great time. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys being a part of it. This was probably our best show so far. I love it. I hope you guys come back. I hope you guys join us in the future. We go live after the Canadiens games every night. Habs After Dark. Thanks so much. We will see you in the next one. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope a wonderful Sunday. And we will see you on Monday night. Peace out.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, docks to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark